Hi, and welcome to Two Tired Teachers.
We are going to talk to you about the west side of Yellowstone National Park. And we're saying the west side because
there is a town of West Yellowstone.
So that's not what we're talking about. We took several days to explore this area because we're old and slow. But this area does contain
Probably
the majority
yes.
of the geothermal activity. Not all of it. There is some spread throughout the rest of the park. But the way we divided the park, for us, the west side, we started at the Biscuit Basin all the way up to Roaring Mountain. And so we did also go over to Virginia Cascades. We have separate little videos about most of those things. But there are a couple of things we want to mention that really were just kind of pull-offs. There were stopping and seeing, but we didn't do a separate little section on each one. And also want to mention there were two things in this section that were closed that we wanted to see.
The
Firehole Lake Drive.
Yes.
Is one. That drive was completely closed, so we didn't get to see the Greater Fountain Geyser. And
there was a museum and information station.
It's a museum of the National Park Rangers.
Yes. And I think that one closed early in September.
Yeah, we asked the Rangers the first day we got here when that was going to close because that was something we wanted to see, and they said it's completely volunteer run, and it had closed actually a few days before we even got to the park. Let's see, the waterfalls, the Gibbon Falls. It's a beautiful waterfall, and it's stopped to see it, but that's about all there is to say about that.
And the Virginia Cascades.
That is a scenic drive,
and it's a great little scenic drive. But the area they have for stopping to where you can actually take photos of the Cascades is relatively small.
Then there actually were a couple of little pull-offs that were not marked on the map.
Yes.
Our suggestion is take those. One was the Frying Pan Spring.
And I have to tell you, that
was beautiful.
A great little stop. We met other Texans there. That's always nice.
And Roaring Mountain is a geothermal thing, but it's cool. I mean, the mountain looks amazing, and it has little pockets of steam coming off. But those were all things that are just kind of at the side of the road. You pull off, you see it, and that's that. So, we're going to show you the rest of our stops as we go.
Hi, we've left Biscuit Basin now, and the colors, because it was so cold this morning, and the fog and the steam mixed together to make it very foggy looking.
But you could see some of the crystal blue, and then there was
in Biscuit Basin, you could see a lot more color than at the bottom of Grand
Prismatic Springs. You could actually notice the colors, and I was going to say that there's that orange as you go along.
Yes.
And then there was a little stream that was green that was going right through there. There was also a bison just laying out in the edge enjoying.
In the middle of the geysers, he's just not on a geyser, but he was
enjoying the view. And my understanding, neither one of us are science teachers, but it's the various minerals that cause the different colors. And it is so cool. We've stopped at so many of these basins and geyser basins, etc. But they have some things that are the same, but they also each have things that are unique. And so this is, once again, one of those places, if you're here, you're going to want to stop and take advantage of. Okay, Midway Geyser Basin
with the Grand Prismatic
Spring.
Okay.
And because the air temperature right now is 46 degrees
on the ground,
ground temperature is there's a lot of fog out there. It was a touch of London as we were looking at this.
A lot of fog, and then the steam from the geysers.
And the parking is at such a premium, we were able to get a spot, but it's just know that we got there just after 8, I believe it was, and we were able to get a spot, but it started getting very...
and this is in...
the second week of September.
Yes. So...
and this is Wednesday,
yeah,
middle of the day, early in the morning, so...
if you try it during June, July, August, on a weekend, good luck.
But anyway, the colors up there, there are oranges, there are very bright blues, but like I said, a lot of it was kind of obscured from our view because of the fog and the steam. But still, it's you cross over the river, that's a pedestrian bridge, and then you kind of zigzag up, and then there is a big loop, and all of that is boardwalk. But this morning, because of all the fog and the steam, it was a little slick.
Yeah.
But still, it was a beautiful walk around, and we are going to do our best to try and find the path where we can get the overview of that lovely fog.
Actually, Sharon's going to get the overview.
But anyway, it's a great stop, but you may have a hike from where you have to park to get down to it. But if you get down there, it is, it's, once again, it's something you're not going to see anywhere else.
It is wonderful.
Okay, we did find the trail. I did hike up there from the parking lot. It's 0.8 of a mile to get up to the overview. It is a nice wide trail, but when you get to the part that takes you off to the overview, it starts getting a little bit steep. And for somebody from Texas, on the way up, I sounded like a locomotive trying to suck in oxygen. But it's a beautiful view, and yeah, you can see things you cannot see when you're down there on the boardwalks.
Hi, on this cold morning, we just finished walking around the Lower Geyser
Lower Geyser Basin artist paint pots. That is south of Madison. And this is one where you kind of have to choose.
Yes.
When we came back through here the other day, this parking lot was full and people were parked on the side of the road for over a half a mile.
Yes.
To come out here. And so this was our first stop this morning. And
very cold.
So there's a lot of fog.
But
it was a choice. Do we deal with the fog or not come here?
Yeah.
And so we apologize that it's so foggy, but we did the best we could. And
it's well worth the stop.
Even with the fog, yeah, it's something, there's a lot of variety here.
There are some beautiful colors. There's some clear pools.
A blue, and then there's some that look almost like they're muddy water that's boiling up red. And caught a couple of little geysers going off. It was hard to see because of the fog. And then there's like a forest that's a dead forest.
Yes.
And it was the variety.
Yes.
It is a half a mile loop around all of this. But the boardwalk, there were steps at one point.
Yes.
And so it was, you want to know about that if you're going to be heading out there with mobility issues.
But you don't have to do the steps. You can get to them, turn around, and come back.
And make yours a mile walk. But just like we said, a huge variety of colors, of types of activity.
Yes.
Some there was just steam and steam and steam and steam, and some, like we said, were just kind of bubbling. Others were actually boiling, and some were actual geysers. And so it's this kind of stuff you never well, if you've never been here before, you don't know what you're getting into. And I am so glad, even with the fog, even with the cold,
yes,
that we came, that we saw, that we've done this. And yeah, this afternoon it may clear off, but once again, the parking is going to be so that it would be prohibitive for us to come.
Yes, I wouldn't be able to walk the half mile on top of the mile very easily.
So if you're coming here, getting here early, that's what we recommend. Okay, we are at the end of Firehole Canyon Scenic Drive.
And it has been worth every moment we've spent on it.
This is one of those things I had heard nothing about until we got here, got a map, saw that there was a scenic drive. And folks, it's only about maybe 2 miles, but you are driving parallel to the river and waterfall, and it's just been amazing.
Incredible views.
And there's an osprey, didn't know that was what it was, but there's an osprey up here, has a nest, and gorgeous, absolutely amazing.
And we learned that there's a swimming hole here.
It's closed for various reasons, but there was a man there that had swum there in the past. And then there was some sort of mountain chipmunk, which looked like it's about 2 or 3 times as large as general chipmunk. But I gotta be honest with you, no geysers or anything on this drive, but the views are spectacular. There are a lot of pull-offs. Some people were in a big hurry, most of us taking our time, and this has been really one of my favorite things that we've done here at Yellowstone. And this is just south of the Madison Junction, and folks,
well worth the stop.
Absolutely worth the time. We are at Terren Springs, which is just north of Madison, and as you're coming north of Madison, you just start seeing all this steam right up against the road and all, and that's because of these springs.
They're incredible. There are little springs everywhere.
And folks, this is one of those places that's not as well known. We just left Artist Paint Pots and the parking lot was getting pretty full. Here, there are 3 cars in the parking lot. And it is amazing. I mean, this has just been...
Some of them are right out in the grass, and others seem to be deep pools. They're very big.
And these are right on the boardwalk.
Yes.
I mean, you can look right into them, and it's, once again, the just vibrant colors, the blues, the various colors that are within the water, and the crystal clear water that you would expect from a spring. It's just that these are steaming and boiling and bubbling, and I gotta tell you, this, I don't know. It's almost like every one we see. It's so unique. It's so different. But this one just,
it's on both sides of the road. It is.
Yeah, let me show you a live shot here. Here we are. We've got a spring bubbling right up here, and the steam is just coming right behind us. And we got mountains with pine trees all around us, and then as I go on across the road, you're going to see this is all just steam coming from these Terren Springs. And this was one we could have easily just driven right past because it didn't, it's not one of the more well-known. But it is gorgeous, and I'm so glad we stopped.
I am too.
We are just leaving Artist Paint Pots. And this is one of the few actual areas listed on the map where no trailers or buses are allowed.
And there's a reason. We got here before 9.
Well, about 9:30 I think it actually was, but early this morning.
And the parking lot was pretty well full.
And the turnaround, the loop, there is a little loop, but it's very tight, and there are people parked on it.
Yes. This is a couple of trails, and I made it up to where it gets steep. Well, Sharon went ahead.
You're 3/10 of a mile to get over to where the geyser activity is. And then there is a boardwalk at the bottom that you can traverse either direction. To go up to the overlook, there were some things that were up there you couldn't see from the bottom. You did get a much better view of the paint pot area. Up at the top there were like white mud bubbling up, and then it was like a white pool kind of bubbling up. Then you had an overview of the stuff that we saw at the bottom. And at the bottom there were some unique shapes.
Yes.
Of the pools.
Yes. And if you have mobility issues, you might be able to make it's part trail and part boardwalk. The boardwalk you can do, the trail I'm not sure.
Well, it depends. The trail does have some roots and stuff in it, but the area that's up there, once again, each of these geothermal areas is unique and different. And like I said, the unique shapes of some of these, and then lots of places where they're just little holes with steam coming out. Others you can hear it bubbling down in there. Some look as though they may have kind of dried up for a season. But if you can go up and do the overlook, yeah, you get some views that you just can't see at the bottom. But either way, if you are able to do the 3/10 of a mile over to the boardwalk and 3/10 of a mile back, then it is definitely worth stopping and doing this. But if you're towing something, be sure you unhitch and leave it somewhere before you turn in the parking lot. Okay, we are at Norris Geyser Basin.
And it has many basins in it, many geysers in it. The porcelain, it was porcelain white. I mean...
Well, the first two things I want to say, one is I feel like this is probably only second in popularity to Old Faithful. So parking is a premium, and there are a lot of folks out there. But the second thing I want to mention is, of all of the basins we've been to, and we've been to most of them now, this is the least accessible.
Yes.
You walk down a path to get to the bookstore museum kind of area, and it's not a level path. I mean, it's definitely doable, but it's not what I think of as an ADA accessible sidewalk, but it could be done.
A woman came down in a wheelchair with her husband pushing her. So, I mean, it can be done, but...
But I'm just saying, and then...
I wouldn't do it by myself.
When you get to where the museum area is, you make a choice to either go to, like, Steamboat, Geyser, or go across to the Porcelain Basin. And going to the Steamboat, there's boardwalk part of the way. There's some beautiful springs.
Yes.
Boiling springs, hot springs, and you have a lot of the activity is very well spaced out.
Yes.
It's not like you're just seeing one thing after another. You're walking between them, and I'll be honest, I got over to the Steamboat Geyser, which is the highest geyser in the park. It erupts over 300 feet high, but it's the least predictable. And one of the things that I read about it was when it has a major eruption, that the other pools that are around actually drain. And it takes days for them to fill back up. Really interesting. And it's very acidic.
And something I read about the Norris geyser is that it is, I think, 284 degrees on the surface, and down below the surface it's 400, and I can't remember how many exactly, but those things are hot.
But once you go through the little archway that is the museum, you can see the Porcelain Basin, and that's a beautiful overlook. But to actually get down there, it's very uneven steps.
I didn't do it.
Some of the sidewalk is just very steep, and there are boardwalks when you get down to the bottom that just kind of zigzag and you're not really sure where to go. But it is beautiful. And there's once again, you have some boiling like muddy water. You have some boiling crystal clear water. You have
some very interesting colors. And once again, like all of these basins, it's very unique.
Yes.
And so it's a wonderful stop, but we're of the age that we think about what's accessible and what's not. And like I said, this one, there was just a lot that I felt like wasn't as readily accessible as some of the others. And
Yes.
so we just want to let you know.
We've loved it. But we are doing a series on Yellowstone, Divide and Conquer, where we've divided the park into east, south, west, and we're heading north next. And then also including the Grand Tetons with the
Yes.
south, and where we are finding camping near the park, as Marlena said. So we hope you've enjoyed our look at the west side of Yellowstone National Park. Thanks for watching Two Tired Teachers.